And we are live. Fantastic. Good evening, everybody. So, a couple of things we need to go through this evening. So, first things first. I want to discuss this interesting article on Siyabona, Africa, and unfortunately it doesn't give a date when it was published, but it's quite interesting. I'm going to do that. So the article states, it's written by Dr. Fred de Boer, quite a well-known elephant researcher, and I'm just going to read through it quickly. The fact that elephant populations have increased considerably over the last decades, and we know that elephants have a large effect on tree cover. Scientists have so far not been able to understand completely what limits elephant populations. Surface water availability seems to be an important factor, and a study carried out in Zimbabwe recently showed that changes in elephant population numbers strongly correspond to changes in rainfall, indicating that water availability and consequently vegetation growth are limited factors in elephant numbers. Most scientists believe that population of elephants or other large herbivores are regulated by the availability of the resources, water and forage. At low resource levels, population growth is almost exponential, but as the population increases, a threshold will be reached at which consumption and production of the vegetation is equal and the population will not increase any further. This threshold is called the carrying capacity. So, we still talk about carrying capacity. So, the notion that carrying capacity is an outdated concept, well, obviously, that's not a notion. When it comes to the Kruger Park elephants, however, the elephant population at KNP does not seem to follow these classical models of decreasing population growth at increasing population sizes, leading to a stable density of elephants. Are these models just wrong? Well, good question. Or maybe the time frame of our analysis is not sufficiently large to understand the population dynamics of the elephant population. Maybe populations of elephants crash over 10 to 20 years when their resources have been exhausted. Well, therein lies a problem. If that is the case, then once the resources are exhausted, it means the resources are also exhausted for other species, which means you're going to get that knock-on effect on rhinos and so on. Or maybe the so-called carrying capacity is far higher than people thought it was. Now, I stand to say that if we can prove that it is higher, that's a good thing. That will not be a bad idea. Hence, a lot of ecological research is focusing on the factors that drive elephant population growth, their spatial distribution, and their impact on the vegetation. At the same time, projects are underway to study study possibilities decrease elephant population growth, such as through immunocontraception. Well, once again, we go back to that problem we have, that on smaller reserves, immunocontraceptives is a fantastic idea. Because if you only got 10 or 12 cows to give contraceptives to, it works fantastic. In the Kruger, it becomes an issue with logistics. Now, one way of decreasing the pressure of elephants in a certain area is to increase your area size, as doubling of your area with elephants could lead to a considerable reduction of elephant impact in that area. Now, that is the conventional wisdom. So, that's why we created the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, open it up to Mozambique, so that we could have more space for the elephants. The proclamation of the KNP, the creation of the Greater Kruger Park with free movements of wildlife between the KNP and the private conservation areas in the east, and the initiatives for establishing an even larger transfrontier conservation area, linking conservation areas in Mozambique, South Africa and Zimbabwe, have all led to larger areas that became available to elephants and an improved conservation status of the elephants. So, like I said, conventional wisdom, that was the great idea. However, more land, more elephants. And here comes the kicker. This is the part of the article that I'm very, very interested about. However, nobody has really addressed the impact of continuously increasing area for elephants on elephant population dynamics. The Tembo program, a cooperation between scientists from the Wageningen University, the Netherlands, the UKZN, and scientists from the KNP, together with other institutes, have now modelled this effect in a small project carried out by Dutch MSc student Marjolein Stark. So, this is where it becomes interesting. The modelling is an abstract way of trying to figure out what will happen over time using mathematical equations that mimic the effect of elephant population growth, mortality and dispersion in relation to changes in forage resources. So, forage resources are not distributed evenly in space and time and differ largely from one spot to another and from one year to the next. This is partly influenced by the erratic rainfall pattern in the area. The Tembo scientists used the existing rainfall data and studied the spatial and temporal variation in rainfall. Using this variation, they were able to model the differences in forage availability, the amount of grass and browse resources available to elephants. After having achieved this, they could model the elephant population in changes over time, dependent on the amount of forage that is available. The next step was to increase or decrease the area that is available to the elephants. So in other words, they built a computer model that simulates from past data what happens in an area regarding to rainfall, and then they went to the computer model and increased that area. This is due to the spatial heterogeneity of rainfall. Being restricted to a smaller area will also restrict the choices an elephant population has to find alternative forage resources if the rainfall is insufficient. When larger areas are made available in the computer, the elephants have the ability to look for alternative resources. If rainfall locally is locally poor and insufficient to support the entire population, the main result of the computer study is that an increase in area will lead to an increase in the elephant density. So, according to this specific study, the idea of increasing the park size to cope with more elephants is just going to cause the elephants to increase in numbers, which is exactly what we don't want. This is an interesting conclusion, especially in the light of the recent changes, the creation of the Greater Kruger and the creation of corridors between KNP and bordering conservation areas in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. So by creating this Transfrontier Park, we might have inadvertently caused the elephant population to explode instead of just disperse. Hence the creation of larger conservation areas, sometimes in an effort to release the pressure of elephant on the vegetation in KNP, could ultimately and in the long term lead to an even larger pressure of elephant in the entire area. Is this not opening up a worst case scenario in the areas? Well, yeah, good question. Predicting elephant changes. We should be careful in predicting elephant changes over time. First of all, we do not fully understand the factors that influence the elephant population. So, yeah, very interesting article, very interesting conclusion. By increasing the size of the reserve, we might actually be increasing the amount of elephants. So, yeah, very interesting article there. So, something to keep in mind. Now, seeing as there is no comments or questions or anything in that line, we are open to questions, by the way. All you need to do is type your questions in the comments. And I will do my best to address them. Keep in mind. How's it, Matt? How are you doing, bud? So we've got a couple of articles to go through tonight. And then I've also collected another couple of videos that we can talk about. But yeah, we'll get to those a bit later. Now the next article we have touched on previously, but we will dive through it in detail like we did with that one, go through the entire article. So it's on Mongabay. They do quite a lot of conservation and so on. I'm good in you, Matt. So they do quite a lot of conservation articles and so on. So we'll check out the comments on this article now and see what everybody says. But let's just go through this. The synopsis is: more than 400 vultures died in a spate of poisoning events in and near South Africa's Kruger National Park in May and June this year. Andre Botha, the co-chair of the Vulture Specialist Group at IUCN, remember that's the International Union for Conservation of Nature, says more than 2,000 vultures have been poisoned in the wider Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Conservation Area since 2015, and other raptors and predators have also died. Now, yeah. So observers have noticed an increase in hunting and snaring of species such as impala for bushmeat trade, with poachers frequently leaving poison-laced carcasses behind to deliberately kill carnivores or vultures. Now, they say something in this article that I do not agree with, but we'll get to that a bit later. Botha and the others stress that urgent action is needed to rein in poisoning and wildlife crime in the GLTFCA, particularly preventative engagement with communities. Now, in May, 49 vultures died after feasting on a poisoned giraffe carcass. A similar incident soon afterwards killed 123 vultures, the vast majority of the critically endangered white-backed vultures, Gypsus africanus. Later that same month, another incident in the nearby Lionspruit Game Reserve. Now, Lionspruit Game Reserve, now this is very interesting. Lionspruit Game Reserve is the game reserve inside Marlow Park. So, you know, the people in Marlow Park are always, they put conservation first and so on, but yeah, their little reserve gets knocked quite a bit. Claimed the lives of more than 100 vultures. In late June, a further 127 vultures, along with 7 crocodiles and a black-backed jackal, died after a buffalo was laced with poison in the Kruger. The events caused the media stir, but they also only tell part of the story, says Andre Botha, co-chair of the Vulture Specialist Group, the Global Wildlife Conservation Authority. Since 2015, more than 2,000 vultures have been poisoned in Kruger National Park and the wider Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. The media spin placed on the most recent of these incidents seems to totally ignore this fact and the lack of coordination action to address this challenge by the statutory institutions, especially on the South African side. So in other words, the park is not doing much about it, according to Andre Botha. So you can see there's the carcass. Jeez, holy crap. So the photo was taken by the Endangered Wildlife Trust, but yeah, just look at all those vultures. So poaching and poisoning are not new in the area, which has been beset by both rhino and elephant poaching. But recent trends suggest increased targeting of vultures, according to multiple experts. Now, I've spoken about this before. Vultures are prized on the black market for muti. The traditional belief is that when an animal dies, a vulture just appears, so they know where to find the dead animals, so they can kind of see the future. So by using parts of vulture in mutis, you would also gain the ability to see the future. So Gary Woliter, CEO of Volpro, a vulture conservation non-profit, says these events are part of an organized strategy by poachers to rid the landscape of vultures, as they can act as an early warning for rangers. Now, once again, I don't agree with that assessment. It is for profit. I wonder how many times these guys don't find the dead vultures. Where there's just a carcass and the vulture carcasses have been removed. Remember, we only find these vultures, none of these vultures are decomposed already. We only find them if we come across the carcass. So this poisoning also affects numerous other species, with experts noting a shift toward carnivore poisoning and poaching in recent years in Kruger and the wider GLTFCA. Across the GLTF, approximately 53 lions have been killed by poison since 2005. Once again, there's some more proof. Like I told you guys before, lions do scavenge. So that's how they eat from these poison carcasses, compared to 12 in the previous decade. According to data from the Endangered Wildlife Trust, 30 lions died from human-linked causes in the Kruger Park in the last 2 years alone. 10 were caught in snares and 14 were poisoned. Now, I don't understand how their mathematics works, because they say 30 lions died from human-linked causes, 10 were caught in snares and 14 were poisoned, so there's 6 missing. There's 6 unaccounted for. Other species swept up in this crisis include numerous species of raptors, hyenas and leopards. Experts underline that the ripple effects of such events across the ecosystem can be large, as vultures play a key role as scavengers in the region, cleansing the landscape of carcasses. This year's vulture poisoning incidents occurred during the breeding season, which means the true number of casualties is likely higher. Woliter says, vultures are late to mature and only lay 1 egg a year, so to lose breeding pairs is catastrophic. Yes, I agree. So commercial hunting of species such as impala or bushbuck for the bushmeat trade has led to increasing number of carnivore casualties, with experts noting an uptick in hunting and snaring since the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, during COVID-19, these guys had free reign of the park. After harvesting a carcass for meat, the poachers often lace it with poison to deliberately kill carnivores or vultures. That's sort of what's been going on the last 5 years. Once again, I don't agree. I think they lace the carcass in order to come back to get more profit out of the situation. The most mortality we've had the last couple of years have been through snaring, where they put out snares to catch bushmeat. When hunters find a lion in their trap, he says they harvest the body. See? Multiple lion parts, including stomach fat, claws, teeth, nails and paws, are taken for the local and international wildlife trade, where they are often used in traditional medicine. So they're lacing these carcasses to further profit. There they say it themselves. Poisoning is not a new trend and been going on for quite some time. She also points out that the ready access to pesticides facilitates poisoning. This makes it not only a wildlife conservation issue, but something that directly impacts human health. Last year, nearly 24 school children died in South Africa, and hundreds more fell ill due to food contaminated with pesticides, including aldicarb, an agricultural pesticide frequently detected at vulture poisoning incidents. These horrendous vulture poisonings in the last few weeks are also shining a limelight on the intersection that is not just wildlife that are impacted, but usually people are involved, and there are impacts on humans and their livelihoods as well, Hoopsler says. Adding there's little knowledge of poison supply chains and how they operate across South Africa. So, guys, I'm not going to go through the rest of the thing. It's just rehashing a lot of the information. But basically, what it comes down to is we need to curb poaching in general. It's a poaching problem. It's not just a vulture problem. It's not just a rhino problem. It's not just an impala problem. It's a poaching problem in general. Right. So if there's no questions or insights on that, then I will move on to the next article. And yay! Finally they are recognized. So as of 28th of August 2025, IUCN has recognized that there is officially now 4 species of giraffes. And it announced it on the 21st of August. Until recently, giraffes across Africa were classified as a single species with 8 to 11 subspecies. However, since 2016, when the giraffe threat test was last assessed for the IUCN Red List as vulnerable, several studies have argued for splitting the giraffe into multiple species given their standards. So, that is fantastic news. They have finally at the IUCN decided to recognize the 4 species of giraffes. Nice content is the only reply on that article. And this article I'd like to bring to the attention of people. Because it's written by Tom LaRock. Now, he's a tour operator and is co-founder of and CEO of Rewild Safaris. So this is somebody within the tourism industry talking. And the main line on the article is the safari industry's conservation washing is a growing problem. And I agree 100%. So you don't need safari experience to understand the allure. Spotting majestic wildlife in sweeping landscapes is inherently captivating, and it's the reason this type of adventure travel has stood the test of time. But while many safari tour operators tout their focus on protecting the animals, environments and local communities that travellers are immersed in during their trip, greenwashing, or perhaps most accurately conservation washing in the safari travel industry is a growing problem. So he explains there that he's been an enthusiast and a guide for more than 35 years. During that time, I've seen incredible things that these trips can teach travelers about our natural world and the good that safari tourism can do for local communities and for conservation efforts. However, I've also seen the darker side of the industries where tours are based solely around the spectacle of seeing a specific animal, no matter the cost. And here now he gives a list of things. And I just want to point out, these are things that I've been mentioning on this channel for a long time. Yes, Matt, so that the poaching is, it's all part of an enrichment process. Okay, so what he says there is, the first thing is predator baiting and animal habituation. And I've spoken about this many times. I know as well as anyone the disappointment of not being able to secure a genuine wildlife sighting, despite everything else being perfect. But when the risk of a no-show leads to unethical practices, a line must be drawn. In some instances, a tour provider may facilitate a wildlife sighting by baiting predatory animals. Now, I've never seen it go that far, but in some places it does happen. Or habituating wildlife to human presence. This not only increases the odds of potentially dangerous encounter, it also disrupts the natural order and skews animal behavior in a dramatic way. Animal welfare should always come first. There we go. I've been telling you for months now. Overuse and abuse of natural resources. In regions enduring drought conditions, seasonal or otherwise, or lacking infrastructure, the overuse of natural resources can exacerbate environmental degradation. Tour providers can still offer luxurious lodge accommodations to travelers without harming the local environment or exploiting scarce resources relied upon by the communities. Modifying game trails and removing vegetations are other unethical practices that some tour providers might engage in, hoping to curate the experience rather than offering travelers a true glimpse of nature. These alterations can have a cascading effect on wildlife behavior and threaten the integrity of the habitat. I've seen it so many times. I worked at a lodge not too long ago. Fever trees are incredibly rare and they should be looked after. Nope, these people decided, no, this fever tree is in the way. It's got to go because it spoils the guest's view. That's directly an issue. And when I said something, I was not treated very nicely. Exclusion of conservation experts. True conservation requires a collaboration with both local experts and organizations that specialize in each region's national eco. A tour operator that isn't actually interested in conservation may tout the name of a conservation group without actively engaging with them or bringing them into the tour planning process. How many times have I told you guys this? The lodges all say, "Yo, we support this," and then at the end of the day, they don't really support it. It's down to the guests to support. This deprives both tour guides and travelers of valuable educational opportunities. Leaving these valuable scientific insights on the table is a clear sign that a tour company is interested in using conservation as a selling point rather than abiding by conservation ethics. And everybody's doing it. Everybody's saying, oh, but we're involved in conservation. This is how we contribute to conservation. But at the end of the day, when you get there, you don't actually see it in practice. See, there's a good example. Wildlife guide feeds a lemur in a park in Madagascar where animals are baited to get better photos and a closer experience for tourists. Exploitation of local communities, and this is probably the biggest problem we have. It is our mandate as safari tour guides to work hand in hand with local communities wherever possible. These individuals live and work year-round in the destinations we merely visit, and it is vital that we listen and learn from them. Some safari operations treat these individuals like second-class citizens, offering exploitative wages and doing little to build goodwill. They inevitably fosters resentment, which can further hinder genuine conservation. So, and then he gives a couple of tips on how to identify authentic conservation, and I would urge everybody to look out for. So the first one is transparency. Reputable operators will always keep and provide detailed information about ongoing conservation efforts, and more importantly, partner with conservation groups to enhance the safari experience at every juncture. Community engagement. Operators that actively engage with local communities to contribute resources and aid in their developments are the ones to seek out. When considering a safari tour, ask about interaction with the community that resides there. You know, it's easy for the lodges to say, yeah, you sit in your 5-star lodge and whatnot, and we tell you that we support the local community, but you don't even see the local community when you're there. Environmental practices. Assess the operator's commitment to environmental activism. Ask about waste management, habitat preservation, and find out how the lodges are powered. Big one. Tour operators that brush aside these queries are rarely interested in true conservation. And then he also raises a couple of red flags, and we'll go through them, and we'll see that how many places in South Africa show these. Guarantee specific wildlife sightings. Sabi Sands, I'm looking at you. Nature is unpredictable, and while responsible tour guides will do everything they can to get you the photo or sighting you want, promising specific animals is a bad sign. Sabi Sands, we see leopards every day. What does that tell you about how they behave, how they treat their leopards? Offer direct interaction with wild animals. There are no ethical ways for a tour operator to set up physical interaction with wild animals. Sure, a giraffe might wander over to your vehicle, but planning such interactions as 10 poles of a tour experience is simply not an ethical approach. How many places do you see that come and visit and then sit for breakfast with Betsy, our local giraffe, as she comes down to the watering hole, and all of these things? Use vague terms like eco-friendly without evidence. Unfortunately, travelers have to be fact-checked when it comes to responsible tourism, so dig below the surface and you'll see whether an operator is truly in it for the right reasons or is just using environmentalism as window dressing. We each hold the power to influence the safari industry by choosing operators that build their tours around. So at the end of the day, it comes down to the tourist. And that's another reason for the existence of this platform. Because people are not educated in conservation, they make decisions based on what do I want to see instead of what is good for conservation. So, very interesting setup there. So now that we've gone through those, is there any questions regarding those articles we just went through? That's our news all caught up. Let's have some fun and look at some videos. So I am going to say, guys, I only went out and looked for like 4 videos today. 4 interesting, or what I think is interesting videos. If you guys have any videos you would like us, please pop the links in the comment section and we'll have a look at them. Not a problem. Make it a bit more tailored to the audience. You guys must get involved and share your links. I'll have a look at the video and explain what's going on there. So, first video is from Leopard TV. And I just included this because two reasons. Number one, it's funny as hell. And number two, it gives you a good idea of how the animals we sometimes see as not being dangerous can actually be quite powerful. Because as you can see there's warthogs, zebras and wildebeest in this picture. And we'll quickly see what happens. Keep an eye on this side of the screen. So, ooh! That was a sitter. Now, the reason why I brought that video in there is, these guys, can you imagine how hard you have to kick to knock a warthog out cold? I'm just going to take it back a little bit. See that warthog, he's not even getting to his feet properly. And then they decide, nah, screw you oaks. We're going to chase you guys around a little bit. Now, the next video is giraffes. So, I want to dispel some common misconceptions, because right off the bat there's something happening that make people get the wrong impression about giraffes. So I just want to point out, guys, male. But this is not, I've heard so many times that people say, yeah, giraffes are bisexual and whatnot. No, they're not. Look carefully. There's no exposed genitalia. It's not. He's not ready to go to action. He was mounting the other one as a sign of dominance. And then they go into this. It looks very graceful, but it's actually quite hectic, this necking procedure. There they stand. There's both of them. You see, and that's the problem. The reason why I chose this video is, if you noticed at the start of the video, they had a blurred out image over the one's genitals, and the title of the video was homosexual giraffe. But now that they forgot to take away the blurred in the whole video, and you can see that one is there. There's nothing there. You can see it through the blur. So the only thing they're blurring out is his balls. And then starts the fight. Look there. The blur is gone. And there is nothing. Remember, they have an internal penis structure. So it would have been hanging there by his knees if it was out in any case. and now they go into necking. Now, just another thing I want to point out is, if you've ever been on safari, you most probably had a safari guide tell you that to tell the difference between a male and a female giraffe, you need to look at the ossicones or the horns. And if they've got hair on the horns, then they are female. If there's no hair, they are male. Look at these guys, hair and hair. But it's two males. So that is not 100% accurate way of sexing a giraffe. Wayne, I'll answer that for you just now when they turn. So you see that thing there that looks like a belly button? It's not a belly button. Like I said, they've got an internal penis, and that is called the penis sheath. So that's the little hole where the penis comes through. And there is the other one. So they are males. So there goes the fallacy out the window. They both got hair on the horns, and yet they are both male because they are young. They only start, what happens is this type of fighting rips out the hair on the horns, and that is what causes them to go bald on the ossicones. So I need to stop saying horns because they're actually ossicones. Ooh, did you hear that shot? And this can go on for hours, guys. See that one, he's like eyeing, he's like setting him up for the swing there. Check. He's got that head turned, setting him up. So another thing here is a big distinction why it's called an ossicone is when they are young, that's actually made of cartilage, so that it can fold flat against the head when they're born. And then it gets up, and then as they get older it calcifies and it becomes bone. But now you can see this guy's been aggressive most of his life because he started fighting a bit too young, because he actually bent one before it was fully calcified. Swinging those head like sledgehammer. This guy's got the idea, he's going for the legs. And they're hitting each other hard, eh? It's not soft. Ooh, look at that. These guys are really going at it, eh? There's some footage out there where they actually knock each other to the ground. So that is giraffes necking. So if you guys got any questions about that before we carry on with the next one, you're welcome to pop it in the comments. I'm just gonna, there's a bit of a delay from the time that I say something until you guys until the comments come through, so I'm just gonna give it a little bit of time before we start with the next video. Wayne, it can. I've seen cases where they've actually killed each other because they can actually break a vertebra or break a leg because they knock each other down. And as you can imagine, that thing on those stilts, when they fall over, it's very easy to break a leg, and that's a death sentence for a giraffe. So yes, it can cause damage. Right, next video. So this is from Capture the Wild.
As soon as they start snorting, the buffaloes will know something is wrong.
And what the guide is referring to there is the buffaloes are alarm calling because they smelt the lion. But the reason I brought out this video,
they don't know the lion,
is I want to point out to you guys, you know, there's this fallacy out there that the females do all the hunting and the males just sit back and have a fantastic life, and that's not exactly true. So I just want to point out what this these are two nomadic males, but in this case it's only one, and that's why the life of a lion is so difficult, because once they get kicked out of the pride, there's about 4 years where they have to do everything for themselves. So they are quite capable. Just look at this.
You know he's there. You can't see him because he's lying flat.
So they can smell him, but they're struggling to see him. No. This is incredible footage.
This ain't so. Okay, copy. Make your way, Daniel. Ngala got Mary now.
Now, something I have to mention here is look how many vehicles are on the sighting. And you saw the buffalo almost running into the vehicle.
Yeah, he's hanging on this Nyari now, trying to get it down. There's only one Ngala. He's waiting for the other one to join.
See, and this is a problem I've got, and that I've spoken about many times. Listen to the guide. He's not talking to his guests. He's not explaining to his guests. He's more worried about being on the radio, calling in the other vehicles. Hey guys, we've got a hell of a sighting here. Come.
He's pretty relaxed.
Crazy, eh?
And only now does his brother or his coalition partner join him.
Let's open him up.
Yeah, guys, just update on this Ngala log. 3 stations in the log. Other Ngala joined now. Nyari is down on the ground.
So through all of that, the only thing he said to his guest was, "It's amazing, eh?" And the rest of the time he's on the radio talking to other guys. It's concerning. Wayne, I just want to answer your question there. Are giraffes related to camels, or are they in the same family? No. They're in the same family as far as they've both got split hooves, so they both antilopinae. But giraffes are not directly related to camels. They are actually more closely related to antelope. Interestingly enough, when giraffes were still classified as one species, the genus and species was Giraffa camelopardalis, and camelopardalis literally means a camel with spots like a leopard. Yeah, it's amazing how strong that lion is to hang on to that buffalo. Now I've got one more video for you guys tonight, and it's an interesting one. Let's see if you guys can spot. I say this accident should never have happened, and let's see if you can tell me why. So I'm just going to play the video, and then you guys can comment and see if you can see what the biggest problem was on this video. Right. Let's go.
Come on.
So I'll play it one more time. And then we'll see if you guys can pick up. There is something majorly that led up to causing this thing, and it's not the elephant's fault.
Come on. Are you okay, people?
Yeah, we are.
We are okay, but
Right, any ideas? I'll wait for the comments. I'll give you guys a clue. It's something that you see quite often, and it's one of those things that you can get away with 99% of the time, but that 1% of the time when you're doing it and things go south, it's a problem. So I assume there's no ideas looking at the comments. Let me go back here quickly and show you what I'm talking about. No, he didn't get too close. Well, he did, but that's not the biggest cause.
Hey, come on, come on, come on.
Right, there we go, folks. Right there. We'll go slowly and see. So when they're there, the elephant trumpets. And at that point, you should be reacting. Stopping the car, getting ready to get out of there, because that elephant is giving you all the signs of aggression.
Hey, come on,
Now the
come on.
elephant starts coming. And because Mr. Guide is sitting in a right-hand drive vehicle with his cell phone in his right hand, busy taking photos or video, and his other hand that's supposed to operate the gear lever and get him in reverse and get him out of there is on the steering wheel. So at this point in time, there's nothing he can do because his hands are occupied with other things.
Come on.
That's what happens when guides are more interested in taking videos than they are about keeping their guests safe. Because think about it, as he's driving, hand on the steering wheel, now he's got his phone in this hand, and he's busy taking video and taking video and taking video. Now the elephant comes. What does he do to get the vehicle going? Whereas if you don't have your phone in your hand, you've got this hand on the steering wheel like it's supposed to be, this hand available for the gear lever as it's supposed to be, you can react. But sitting like that, there's nothing you can do. The best you can do is pop the clutch and the brake and stop the vehicle, which is exactly what he did, and that just stopped him square in the elephant's path. Wayne, that could be a number of things. The thing is, it could be a bull in must. There could be little ones around. It could just be that the elephant is having a bad day. The point is, everything was fine with the approach, but the elephant trumpeted the first time, and then he should have reacted already, but he wasn't able to, because he put himself in a situation where he can't. So there we go, guys. That's been just about an hour. If there's any other questions, please feel free to pop them in. By the way, I just want to add one thing. The closest living relative of a giraffe, the giraffe family, is antelopes, but the closest living relative of a giraffe itself is a okapi. And let's see if I can let's show you guys quickly what a okapi looks like. So that is an okapi. Yeah, it's a freaking weird animal. And I just want to head over to Julian Hennessy's website quickly. So the Giraffe Conservation Fund, and I just want to point out quickly here we go. So while we were talking about it, the different the different species of giraffe. So the names have changed completely. It used to be Giraffa camelopardalis for all giraffe, and then you add camelopardalis something else for the subspecies. But that's now changed completely. So the Maasai giraffe is now a species on their own, Giraffa tipelskirski. And of them, there's only 43,000. So with this new information that comes out, giraffes are actually more endangered than elephants. And they're divided into two subspecies, the Thornicrofti and the tipelskirski. The Luanga giraffe is severely endangered. 764 species left. 764 animals left in the wild. And then we have the northern giraffe, Giraffa camelopardalis. They get the old name. And it's Godofin and Nubian and West African. So that one would be called in taxonomical terms Giraffa camelopardalis antiquarium. Nubian giraffe would be Giraffa camelopardalis and Giraffa camelopardalis peralta. Then the reticulated giraffe, which is what we see in a lot of zoos, is Giraffa reticulata. There is no subspecies in that one. And then here in South Africa, or in southern Africa, we've got two subspecies. So we've got our own species, the southern giraffe, and it's very easy, Giraffa. And then it's the Angolan giraffe and the South African giraffe. The Angolan giraffe, Giraffa angolensis, and the South African giraffe, Giraffa. And there you can see a bit of a distribution map. So the Longa giraffe is only found in that little piece of Africa there. So in Namibia you will see Angolan giraffes, and the South African giraffe is throughout this whole region here. So the whole of South Africa into Botswana, Zimbabwe, Tanzania. Right. So that will conclude my presentation for the evening. So if there's any other videos you guys would like to look, like to have me have a look at, please pop it in the comments now, so that I can get the links and have a look at it, and then we can discuss it. However, and we'll be going live again tomorrow evening around about 7 o'clock. So if you guys want to suggest a topic for tomorrow, that gives me some time to prepare. I'm thinking of doing a bit more on these giraffes and the new species, and how it came to be, and where they are located, the distribution maps and so on, and the differences between the giraffes. But if there's no more questions or anything like that, then I am going to love you and leave you. Right, there we go, folks. Hope you have a wonderful evening, and I hope we have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you here again tomorrow evening at about 7 o'clock. And watch out for some new content dropping tomorrow at about 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, South African time. And have a wonderful evening.